The update is out for a couple of days now. It was the biggest update since the Blood Knight, and in fact, one of the biggest updates since the game launched. It was somewhat a expansion pack, giving us new zone, familiar system, and a lot more quality of life feature. But today I want to talk about familiar. There are few things I don't like about the familiar system. I already talked to the developer, gave them my feedback. Few things needs to be changed with the familiar system, and I will be talking about that in a sec. But if you are someone who is trying to purchase a Phoenix Ashes right now, you should not do that. It is much better that you try and get a familiar that can give you the exact talent, but it is much better. If we go to the shop here, to the market, and take a look here at the Phoenix Ashes, it is somewhere down here. So Phoenix Ashes can prevent a fatal damage and grant a shield for 6 seconds that absorb damage based on our base damage. And it has a cooldown of 180 seconds. That is 3-minute cooldown. This can only trigger every 3 minutes. And if we go and check out the familiar here, there is one familiar with a legendary passive. You don't need any requirement for this to work. You can just have this on any aberrant pet. It just needs to be a legendary, and familiar provide and one time death protection and damage immunity for 3 seconds. So this is much better compared to a Phoenix Ashes. It has only cooldown of 75 seconds compared to 180 seconds of the Phoenix Ashes. And I would purchase this, but I am currently out of platinum and only have 680. But a really strong passive right there. We don't need any requirement for this to be working. We can just have this in our active slot, and this passive will give us that cheat that in battleground and even in the PvE content. Really strong. And some of the passive here on these familiars are really strong. I saw a familiar early that has 32% block chance for 4 or 5 seconds every time it trigger a skill. So some of these are really strong, and this marketplace is what makes it pay to win. Whales are currently trying to purchase the best of the best legendary passives and become even stronger. But anyhow, let's get into some of the things I don't like about the familiar system. I already gave my feedback to dev team. Starting with, there are just not enough contract in a week. We can only get 3 guarantee contract from the Nisa shop. If we come to the shop here and go to the contract shop, there is only 3 available per week, and that is just not enough in my opinion. So I gave them a feedback to add more contract to the health trader here, just like the pearl we can purchase once a week. We should have an option to purchase a familiar contract from a health trader. Other than that, I also gave them a feedback we should able to get some more contract every 7 days. They should add a familiar contract on day 7 with the 1 gem. That would be really nice in my opinion. And other than that, they should allow the goblin to maybe drop the familiar contract. Maybe that would be too much, but goblins should able to drop the spirit essences that we need to upgrade our familiars. If we go take a look here, my familiars are already flower 30, and it would be nice if we can get some spirit essences from goblin as well. Not that I need more, I already have enough to upgrade even more familiar, but right now there are some players having issues trying to farm for the spirit essences, so it would be a nice quality of life feature if goblins can drop these spirit essences. The next one is going to be the biggest issue for me with the familiar, and that is the familiar just cannot keep up with the movement speed of like 50-60%, and the cat is just going to try and keep teleporting on me to keep up. If we take a look at that, the cat is just teleporting to keep up with me and being totally useless. And this is also a issue if we go into the Elder Rift here and start running. The familiar doesn't have enough movement speed to keep up, so I told them to link the movement speed of the familiar with the player movement speed buff so the familiar can keep up. And on the top of that, I told them that we need to have a 5-6 yard radius, pickup radius for the familiar, so it can be useful for us, especially when we are doing some farm. Right now it is completely useless, not able to pick anything up. And there we go, my familiar did not end up doing anything in this rift other than trying to teleport on me each time to keep up and not picking any items. So that is my biggest issue. I told them to add some 5-6 yard pickup radius for the familiar and also link the movement speed of the player with the familiar, that way familiar will able to keep up with us. And lastly, I told them to add the spirit essences and a contract here for doing bounty, or at least there should be a chance of getting the familiar contract from doing the bounty. That way we will able to get more than 3 familiar a week. In my opinion, 3 is just too low, purchasing from Nisa. And then even if we try and do open world farm, the drop rate for the familiar contract is just too low. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys have any suggestions for the familiar system. I will be reading the comments as always and passing some of the feedback directly to the dev team. I'm signing off. You guys have a great day. See you tonight with something else later.